Hi everyone, welcome to the Redesigning School Counseling webinar for Renewal Schools. The topic of this month's webinar is root causes. My name is Sue Reynolds and I am president of the American Student Achievement Institute. Also participating in this webinar is Debbie Howell, and if you have any questions after the webinar, please feel free to call Debbie. As you know, Debbie is the Redesigning School Counseling Strategic Planning Specialist, and her phone number is on the screen there, 812-349-4142, or you can also email Debbie at howell@asainstitute.org. So Debbie is your go-to person. If you have questions as you're working through the RSC process, please feel free to give Debbie a call. So today's agenda will again do a very quick review of the RSC beliefs and the RSC process, and then we'll look at this month's tasks. So this month we'll start out the month with sending a pre-meeting email to your advisory council members. The nice thing about this email is that it's all automated, which is really cool. I think you'll enjoy it. And then we'll do a quick walkthrough of the root causes discussion with your council, and then talk about what submissions will be coming in this month and the rubric for those items. We'll look at the online system, and that's about it. So, okay, let's get started. So we'll start out with our quick review. And again, in RSC, we believe that school counseling programs help students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success and ultimately lead to successful employment in high-skill, high-wage jobs in your community. So that is, we believe, the focus and the purpose of school counseling. So this is just another way to say the same thing. We believe that sound school counseling programs that have sound guidance and counseling activities help students make better choices, and that as a result of those choices, achievement will go up. And so when we've been designing the school counseling program this year, we've just taken this pyramid and we've worked it backwards. We started out with your school's academic achievement goals that are found in your school improvement plan. And then we said, okay, for the school to reach our achievement goals, what choices do kids need to make? And then we'll talk about, in order for kids to make those choices, what guidance do they need and what counseling do they need? So that is the program design model. Okay, so in terms of the process, we started out in the beginning of the year putting together the organizational structure. So you convened a steering team, you put together an advisory council, you collected data, and you did some self-studies to get ready. Then as a renewal school, you had your first meeting with your council where you updated your vision. We heard from a lot of the renewal schools that there really wasn't a lot of tweaking that they needed to do with their visioning, and their original vision was quite lofty and still appropriate. And then in September, you updated your program goals. These were all of the choices that students need to make in your building to be successful. So you looked at students that were successful in your school and were prepared for education at the next level, and then you said, okay, for successful students, what are the choices that they make in third grade or in eighth grade? And you came up with this big list of all the choices that kids who are successful at school and are preparing for post-secondary and careers, all of the choices that they tend to make. Okay, and then last month in October, you said, okay, we've got this big list of all these goals, all these choices that kids need to make, but let's look at narrowing down that list, coming up with a subset of priority goals. These may be just 1, 2, or 3 choices that you want to make sure that every student in your building is doing. So these were choices that not only were really important for kids to make, but maybe were important for to your council because so few students were making those choices. Okay, so you expanded resources last month, and then you decided which of those program goals were going to become priority goals for you. So going into this month, you have 1, 2, maybe 3 priority goals that you're really going to hit with your school counseling program next year. So our step this month is to come up with why aren't kids making those choices. If one of your priority goals was to have kids submit a FAFSA, then we want to know why aren't kids submitting a FAFSA. If one of your priority goals were that kids were completing their homework, then we want to know, well, why aren't kids completing their homework? So to figure out the answer to that why question, this month we're going to do a root cause analysis. We're going to look at a whole lot of data that will help us understand why kids aren't making the choices that you want them to make in those priority goal areas. So we're going to look at 3 types of data this month. One is guidance data that helps us understand if kids have the knowledge they need to make those choices. We'll look at counseling data that helps us understand if kids have personal and social issues that are interfering with their ability to make sound choices kind of across the board. And we'll also look at opportunity data. It may be that kids aren't able to make the choices that they need to make because we don't give kids the opportunity to make those choices, or we give some kids the opportunity to make those choices, but not all kids. So our data this month is going to help us look at why kids aren't making the choices that we want them to make. Then next month we'll start talking about updating our activities in order to address the root causes that exist now. And then finally, second semester, we'll start doing the preparation to help us implement the activities that you've decided to drop into your school counseling program. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands up or questions typed in, so let's move on. So this month's task is to prep for the root cause discussion. And one of the things I mentioned earlier that is pretty nifty is that we have an automated pre-meeting mailing that will go out to your advisory council to help them look at that root cause data before they get to your meeting. This is something that the last time that you went through RSC as a renewal school, the last time that you went through RSC, this was a by hand mailing that you did with lots of paper that accompanied a memo with all that data. This time it's all going to be online and it's really pretty cool. So here's what it looks like. This is the first part of the email that you'll be sending out. And it explains that in the next month we're going to be, identifying root causes, and then the email will take your priority goals that you created last month, and it will drop them into the body of the email. So, for example, this one for our demo school says, as a reminder, our priority goals are to increase the percentage of students who have a written four-year course plan, and then who we have that goal for, all students, and have a written post-secondary education plan. And that is also for all students. And then it goes on to say, that students may not be making these choices because they lack knowledge, they have personal social issues, or they may not have the opportunity to participate in guidance or student assistance activities. So, and then we're explaining to the council to save time. We'd like them to complete the steps that are listed in the instructions below. So when they scroll down in the email, here's the instructions. So we're saying to the council in this email, please open each of the root cause data reports listed below, and when you scroll down further, you see links to those reports. And then we're telling the council members that these reports do not contain any individual student data. So in terms of sharing this data, we're all FERPA compliant because there's no individual data. And then, however, we're also explaining to them that they may contain information that some may consider sensitive and should not be shared. So even though we're not identifying any individual student data, it is kind of sensitive to know that X percentage of your students are feeling stressed or feel that they've been bullied or whatever, especially in the personal social report. So we're just asking them, not to share that information. However, if they do, it's not a FERPA issue because we're not talking about an individual student's data. We're just asking to be sensitive about that. Okay, so as you read each report, we're asking yourselves, what could be keeping our students from making those choices that we identified above as our priority goals? And then what we want them to do. When you find an answer, please write the following on a sticky note. So, and then we're saying, you know, which priority goal is impacted by the data? Do they feel? What report did they get the data from? And then what is the possible root cause? What is the data? And then their initials so we know who wrote that sticky sheet. So then when they scroll down, we give them some examples of what those sticky sheets might look like. So in the top one, we're saying that the priority goal was they would have written the priority goal is to increase the percentage who enroll in AP. What report did they get that from? The guidance report. And then what is the data? 50% of the kids don't know that the school even offers college level courses, and then their initials. Or the next one is more of a personal social issue. They are reporting on the student assistance report, that 50% report that stress is interfering with their learning and possibly interfering with their ability to make good choices at school. And then the last one is an opportunity data in our sample, which explains that that in the opportunities report that students do not have the opportunity to take AP classes. Maybe we don't offer them at our school, or we don't offer enough of them to meet the need of our students. So, and then finally, bring the sticky notes to our next advisory council meeting. Okay, so when they scroll down further, they have links to the reports. So we have 4 different reports. There's the guidance needs reports. There's the student assistance report, which is the personal social needs, and then there's the student opportunities report. And then also the student group reports, where they can start to disaggregate some of the data to see if the issues that they're coming up with are for all students, or maybe it's just for 7th graders, or just for boys, or just for Hispanics. So that will be able to have them kind of fine-tune, you know, who has a struggle with this root cause. So also, you're going to be able to customize which reports are available. It may be that you've decided that you don't want to share your personal social issues, even though it's aggregated data, no individual student data, but it may be something that you decide you don't want to share that information with your community. So you can decide to leave that link off of this email. So if you are a Gold Star school, though, or a RAMP school, in Indiana Gold Star and Ask a Ramp School, we'd really suggest in Indiana, it's one of the requirements that your council has to look at data in all of these areas. So, okay. You are able then, as I just mentioned, to customize that email slightly. And you would do that in this step in the process page. So you're going to click on that enter icon in the row that says send automated email to your advisory council. And when you do that, you'll have this screen pop up, and it will ask you to share the following reports with your advisory council. And the needs data, which is just knowledge-based, you know, do you know what a FAFSA is? Do you know where to find a FAFSA? That is a default, so everybody's going to see that. But then you have the option to leave off or put on the survey question responses that are related to personal social issues, and the student opportunities responses that came from the counselor survey. So you'll decide, and again, our recommendation would be that you allow the council to see all of that data so they can really have a good sense of what might be interfering with students' ability to make those priority student choice goals. Okay. We also just ask you to identify which person is making this decision in case the question ever comes up about that, you'll know. Okay, and then in the setup, the next step in step 2 is that you'll verify that all of the council members' email addresses are correct. So when you click that advisory council link right here in this area, that will pull up all your advisory council members and all of their email addresses. So you'll just check to make sure that all the email addresses are correct. And then finally, there's a couple of things we need you to tell us before you can send the email. One is that you understand that all the advisory council members with valid email addresses in the advisory council roster will receive this message. So we just want you to tell us that you understand that once you send the email, it's going to go out to those people. And if you click on this message, the message will pop up, so you'll see exactly what the council members are going to see. And I'll show you that in a sec. Then you're also going to say that you understand that the email I'm sending will enable the council members to view group data, but no individual student data. So this is FERPA compliant for the reports that you've checked above. And then who is the person that's sending out the email? And actually, when the email comes out, it'll come out from this person's email address. So it's not going to look like it's coming out from the system. It'll look like it's coming from, in this case, Brian Mitchell. So once you click those two understandings, then just click send the email to the advisory council, and poof, that email will go out and everybody will have it. Okay, so and I'll show you what that email looks like in just a little bit. So let's look at some examples of things that your advisory council might find in the data. And we like to think of this as like stories in the data. There's stories in the data, and interesting stories. So let's say that your council's doing a root cause analysis, so they're in their living rooms, they're looking at all that data, and you've told them that one of your priority goals is to increase the percentage of 12th graders who apply for merit-based financial aid. So they're digging into all those reports, looking for stories that would help them understand why 12th graders aren't applying for merit-based financial aid. So maybe the first thing that they're going to look at is the guidance report. So they're looking through all the questions in the guidance report, and here's this question that says, do you know how to apply for merit-based financial aid scholarships based on students do you know how to find and apply for merit-based financial aid? And then we define that in case they don't know what merit-based means. So scholarships based on students' abilities or accomplishments. And when you see that, you find that out of all students in grades 9, 10, 11, 12, 19%, only 19% of the kids said yes. So that means that 80% either say no, they don't know where to find scholarships, or they're not sure. So if this were to come up in your data, and this is a real school's data, by the way, if this were to come up in your data, it would be, oh, no wonder our kids aren't applying for merit-based financial aid. They don't know how to. And so then this would give you a clue that you needed to change your guidance curriculum. Okay, here is another clue in the data. This is from the counselor survey. And the counselors have said, or the counselor filling out the survey said on the question obtain merit-based financial aid applications, they've said that 100% of the students have the ability to obtain merit-based financial aid applications. So this does not seem to be an opportunity issue. It's just maybe that kids don't know how to take advantage of this opportunity. So it's not, in this case, probably an opportunity issue. Okay, it could also be a social personal issue. So we're looking through this and we're seeing, is there anything in this personal social data that would interfere with kids being able to complete a merit-based financial aid application? So, we're kind of looking through this, and, it may be that you're not finding any issues that you think would interfere with that. But, it may be, that if, you have a high percentage in one of these areas, that might be impacting their choices across the board, all choices that they're making. So it may, be a clue to you that you need to change something about the counseling side of the school counseling program. So, okay. And then guidance gaps. So we know from that first data that kids don't know where to find merit-based scholarship information. So now we might want to figure out, well, which kids, is it? Is it the ninth graders? Well, maybe it's not a big deal if ninth graders don't know where to find merit-based scholarship information. Or is it the 12th graders, which would, be a bigger deal? Is it the Hispanic kids? Is it the free and reduced lunch kids? So we can dig into these drill down reports to find out which kids it is. So as we dig in, this is an example of what the drill down report would look like. And, we see that, that in ninth grade, the kids are telling us that they do know where to find merit-based scholarship information. At that point, their perception is that they do have that. There's not an issue with that. So, I just said that backwards, didn't I? I'm sorry. Let me reword that. In ninth grade, they don't know where to find it. Only 4% of the kids said that they know where to find merit-based scholarship information. You can see that we've increased to 16% by 10th grade. My guess is that there was some school counseling programming, some guidance programming in here that help kids understand merit-based financial aid. And then 11th grade, that stayed about the same. We got a jump to 12th grade. So again, my guess is, and this is a real school's data, my guess is that, at the beginning of 12th grade or sometime in 12th grade, the counselors did some programming on merit-based financial aid because we saw, a relatively large jump. But if I were the counselor in this building, I would still not be happy because, less than half of the kids feel that they know how to find and apply for merit-based scholarships. And I'd be wondering if the other half knew, maybe they would be thinking post-secondary more, or, maybe we have kids that are going to college that are among that, that 50% that are saying that they don't know or aren't sure where to find merit-based scholarships. So again, this kind of helps us to narrow it down and to really show, do we have a problem or not. Here's another way that I would want to look at that data. I'd want to drill down into the free and reduced lunch kids versus the paid lunch kids. And here you can see we don't have as much of an issue that it's, we have slightly more paid lunch kids who are saying that they know where to find merit-based scholarships, but it's not a huge discrepancy, which is good news for this school. Often we'll see the paid lunch be a very high percentage, and then the free and reduced lunch be a very low percentage because they're not getting the same kind of guidance as our paid lunch kids or our more affluent kids. So this again, there's stories in this data, and what does the data say? So okay, and then one other thing, a way that I would want to look at this data is which kids in terms of their academic success know where to find merit-based scholarships. And again, for me personally, I would want all of these kids to know where to find merit-based scholarships and know that it's available. But the fact that our kids who get A's and B's on the report card are only at 23%, and we've got, 77% that aren't sure or don't know where to find merit-based scholarship information. Of the kids who get A's and B's, who just based on academics would be more likely to get those scholarships, that's problematic. So lots of different ways that you can drill down the data once you kind of know what the issues, what the priority goals are that you're looking for. Okay, so let's do a quick walkthrough of the meeting. I think before we do that, let's go to the website, and I'm going to go to the Process tab, and let's just kind of look at this real quickly. Notice that the Renewal tab is highlighted. I'm going to scroll down to November, which is root causes. And one thing I wanted to show you here is that when we are sending a couple things. Let's just walk through. In step 3 on the update, If you click here, this is going to open up all of your advisory council roster and then allow you to email change the email addresses. In the next section, this information, the counselor time use percentages and the student opportunities, that came from the counselor survey that you did at the same time that you set up the student surveys. But you now have done time task logs, and you may want to change some of this because now you have data to back up your opinions. So we gave you an opportunity, if I click there, to open up this page, and then you can, and there will be numbers in here that you put in during the survey, but you can update these. So it may be that in the survey, when you first did this, when it says, are these percentages based on a time task log, at that point you probably said no unless you had one, and then you put those in. But now you can say yes because you've done your time task logs, and you can update those based on that data. And then student opportunities, again, before you send this out to your council, we give you an opportunity to edit this information. So, okay. So that's that step, editing the opportunities data. Then in sending the automated mailing to the advisory council, if you click this, that gives you the opportunity to say, the first time you go in, these will be not clicked. It gives you the opportunity to say, you know, I want to include these. And then down at the bottom, if you click this message, that pops up the email so you can see exactly what it's going to say after it's been customized for your school. And it basically looks like what we went through on the PowerPoint slides. So one little note here is that you can't copy and paste the text of this message into your own email. If you do, the links won't work because these links are, they talk to our program and pull up reports that are specific for your school. So, okay. So that's that part. And then you're conducting the advisory council meeting, entering your root causes. Let's go now and look at the advisory council meeting. I'm going to click here to jump over to the manual, and I'll scroll down to the root causes, and I'm going to open the root cause presentation, and that downloads, and I'm going to open it. Okay, so let's just kind of fly through this. Let's see, I want to do slideshow from current slide. Okay, so in the beginning, we're just going over the agenda. So there's 4 parts: review, introduce root causes, then do the analysis, and then looking ahead. So the review, I'm just going to fly through that. It's the same every month. Okay, and we're reminding people too that there are products that come out of each of our discussions, and you'll be able to pass out copies of your priority goals from last month's discussion. And then today we're looking at root causes. So asking them, do they have questions? And then on root causes, we're explaining that root causes help us answer the question, why aren't students making sound choices for each of our priority goals? And then we're kind of helping them look ahead, that after we know the root causes, then we'll be able to address the root causes through activities. So on this slide, we've just given you a slide where you can type in prior to your meeting what your priority goals are, you know, which student groups are you trying to impact, what choice do you want them to make, what's your baseline data, what's your target data. The other thing you could do instead of this slide is just print out that report and distribute it to everybody, either way. So we're helping folks understand today we're going to check 3 things. Do kids have the knowledge they need to make the decisions? Do they have personal social issues that are interfering with decisions? Do they have opportunities to participate? And then we're talking about clues in the data, and we're helping them, we're reminding them that that you know they were able to look at these guidance reports and the opportunities data, and then personal social data. and then we'll jump into the analysis part. So we're explaining to your council that we're using a Delphi consensus building model. The first step is for each individual to do a data analysis. Then we're going to come up into small group consensus and then large group consensus. If your council is very small, you may be able to skip the large group consensus step, but typically I like to break people into like groups of 3 or 4 when I'm doing the small group part. So probably for most of you, you'll have both the small and large group consensus steps. Okay, so the good news is that step 1's already done. The individual data analysis people completed at home. So, and they've brought all their sticky notes with them. So you're reminding people that as a pre-meeting task, they looked at all the data, they filled out these sticky notes, and they brought them with them. So the step that we're going to start with then is the small group discussions. And here are the instructions. So each small group will have a poster that looks like this, and that is also in the manual, so you can download it and then blow it up into a poster or just hand draw it onto, flip chart paper. So then the steps are, we're telling them that we want them to place their sticky notes on the poster in the appropriate column. So here are guidance things that are getting in the way. Here's student assistance things or personal social things that may be getting in the way of that choice, and then here are opportunities that are maybe getting in the way. Notice also that each group is going to have a poster for each of the priority root causes. So, I'm sorry, the priority goals. So on this poster, you've written, okay, this is the poster for this priority goal, increase the percentage of students who choose to enroll in AP. And then people have taken their sticky notes and they've put them up on this poster. And then there will be another poster that says, whatever another priority goal might be, to increase the percentage of students who complete a 4-year high school course plan. And so the sticky notes for that priority goal would go over there. So the first part of this step is just to get all the sticky notes up. Okay, and then the second part of the step is just an informal, open discussion. Let's talk about the areas that you believe may be root causes. And so they're kind of looking at the sticky notes, reading each other's ideas, and they're kind of just discussing what they think is the root cause. And then finally, we're asking the small group to select 1 to 3 root causes for each poster, for each priority goal, that they think should be the focus of the school counseling program next year. So we've got that. This is why I like to make this into really small groups here, because it's a lot easier for a group of 3 to 4 to come to consensus on that. So a couple of tips. Please don't spend any time talking about the following, and we're giving people a heads up that we'll talk about these things at our next meeting. So we don't want to know why the root cause exists, or we're not going to talk about yet how to fix the root cause. We just want to know what's getting in the way. Next month we're going to talk about how to fix that, but this month we just want to know what's getting in the way. So, and then tip 2 is that while we're not talking about activities at this meeting, if a great activity pops up in your head, please write it on the activity parking lot. So here's what the activity parking lot looks like. There's one of these posters. It's up on the wall. And we're just telling people, if something pops into your head that would be a really good fix to these, just please go over and write it on the activity parking lot. And then next month we'll bring back the parking lot to talk about the possible fixes when we talk about possible fixes. This does 2 things. One, it is kind of gives you a way to remember things for next month when we are talking about activities. But the other thing is that it's going to cut any discussion of activities so that we don't end up spending 20 minutes talking about an activity that might be really cool, while also respecting the person that came up with that idea. So, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about activities, but if one comes up, we're going to say, oh, time out. There's a great idea for an activity. Please go post it in the parking lot so we can talk about it next month. But we're not going to spend 20 minutes at this meeting talking about possible activities. Okay, and the reason we put this up there, you probably can conclude, is that this discussion tends to go to activities really fast, and then we stop talking about data and root causes. So we want to nip it in the bud while also being respectful of people. Okay, so after the small group, then we're going to come to large group. So we're asking for each priority goal for the small groups to give a quick report. And they're going to share root causes identified by your small group. And their statement will start with the words, "We believe one root cause for this priority goal might be that," and then they're just going to finish that statement in 3 to 5 words. So, and then some of the guidelines is that we're going to share just one concern at a time, and we're going to limit the statement to one sentence, and we don't want to include activities that could address the root cause or why the root cause exists. So this is really quick. So what I want you to imagine is that whoever's facilitating this, you're standing up in front of the group and you've got maybe 5 or 6 small groups that have been talking, and now we've got to make these reports real quick so that all the idea gets out. So we're going to go over this, and then we're going to say, okay, group 1, start us out. We believe one root cause for this priority goal might be that, and then they finish that sentence, and then we go, and then very quickly we go on. Okay, group 2, we believe one root cause for this priority goal might be that, and we're talking about just one of the priority goals, kids not signing up for AP, and we're going around. I find that I can make the discussion quick by speeding up my sentence. Okay, real quick. We believe that one root cause for this priority goal might be that, and then they say it. Sometimes I'll even prompt a group and pull aside somebody ahead of time and just tell them, this conversation can get really slow. Can you kind of set an example by giving a very quick and concise report out the first time I call on you, and then call on that person first, and then they kind of set the behavior expectation. So what happens in this is that people will want to do a 5-minute introduction to their priority goal, why they think it's a priority goal, and the root cause, why they think it's a root cause, and what we should maybe do about it, and and if that happens, it just bogs down the meeting. So we want to keep this really, really quick, and the other thing is that you're moving very fast from one table to the next, and with your body language and your the quickness of your voice, you can kind of set the stage for that. So okay, then as people are reporting out, 2 things need to happen. One is that each person at their seats has a piece of paper that looks like this. And so, the first person says, we think a root cause is that we don't offer AP classes. Then the facilitator is going to say, okay, so the first possible root cause is we don't offer AP classes. And then they ask, will everybody write that down in number 1? So everybody in this first row here has written down, we don't offer AP classes. And then, then we go to the next table, next group, and they say, we think a root cause is that there's a fee for the AP exam. And so everybody writes that down in number 2. So, and then of course on priority goal at the top, you might even write in beforehand and before you make the copies of this, that the priority goal is that, that more kids enroll in AP. So again, at their desks, people are going to have multiple copies of this. There will be one that says, enroll in AP. There will be another one that says turn in homework, whatever your priority goals are. Okay, we're not doing anything yet with this column over on the right. So that's one of the things that has to happen as people are giving the reports. If this is a continuing priority goal, then you would also want to write onto this list any of the root causes that you identified the last time you went through RSC. So make sure that they get up there as well. We don't want to start totally from scratch. We want to pull the information, the root causes from the last time you discussed this priority goal 3 years ago or whatever into the discussion. So that's how we'll do that. We're going to add them. Okay. Then we're asking I'm gonna go ahead a slide first. The other thing that's happening as the reports are being given is that somebody on your steering team has this poster on the wall, and again there will be a poster for each priority goal. And so this one would say increase, the percentage of students who enroll in AP. And as the individuals at their chairs are filling out this piece of paper, somebody on your steering team is writing down the same information on this infograph. So, number 1, students, we don't offer AP. Number 2, students don't know where to find extra help, or whatever comes up when they're discussing this. So, okay, so those are the 2 things that are happening as the reports are being given. So after we've exhausted all the possible root causes, we've gone around and around, nobody can think of any more possible root causes, then we're going to ask your council members to check a third of however many things are written there. So if there's 12 things written, they would check 4. If there's 30 things written, they're going to check 10. And they're checking the ones that they think are having the biggest impact on students not making the choice that you want them to make. So it's always a third. Okay, so then we're asking them to come up to the infograph, and any that are checked on their paper, they would then either put a sticky dot or an X as they're building the infograph. So the first person comes up, puts their sticky dot on, the second person puts their sticky dots on. And it's pretty easy when they get up there. They really don't even have to read these things. They know if they have a sticky dot on, if they have checked on that previous page 1, 3, and 6, then when they get up, they just have to put their sticky dots on 1, 3, and 6. They don't really even have to read these things. So it goes pretty fast, and you can see kind of what's happening as we're building a bar graph. And it's pretty obvious that in this council they felt that possible root cause 1 and possible root cause 3 were the biggest things that were keeping kids from enrolling in AP. And if I were facilitating this discussion, I would say, only one person voted for that, only one person indicated this one. Would it be okay with the group if we just kind of didn't think of 2 and 4 as possible root causes? And 100% of the time when I've done that, everybody has said okay. But it also gives someone a chance to say, no, I think stress had a huge issue to deal with this, and it's not okay to take that off, and then they have a chance to argue that point. So I might say to the group, let's talk about these 2. We probably don't need to talk about 1 and 3 because everybody felt pretty strongly about that. But let's talk about 5 and 6. Are these issues that we should be addressing also? Or is it just 1 and 3 that the school counseling program should really focus on? Keeping in mind that if we focus on 4 things, it's going to spread our time and energy. Whereas if we focus on these 2, we'll have more time to spend on those. So, and then just kind of see where the group wants to go. So what this infograph is doing is it's shortening the discussion, because we don't have to discuss the ones that everybody voted for, and we don't have to discuss the ones that nobody or just like one person voted for. So really all we have to discuss are these 2. Okay. So after you come up with what root causes you want the school counseling program to focus on, then we'll do a consensus check. Can we live with the root causes as the ones that our school counseling program will address? And can we publicly support these root causes as the one our school counseling program will address? So can we live with it? Can we publicly support it? And if anybody says no, then we got to go back and start, having that discussion again about why they said no, and and with an open mind, because we might be missing something that they have not missed. So, okay. Then looking ahead, we're just helping people understand that at the next meeting, we're going to identify activities that will address these root causes. So we want everybody to be thinking about activities that school counselors could do, that other educators could do, but also that parents and community organizations could do to address the root causes. So, and I'd maybe give some examples here based on what your root causes are. Like if one of your root causes are, that kids don't know about that AP classes exist, then, we might say to folks, what could the Boy Scout troops do to help with that? What could youth service organizations do to help with that? Or what could the PTA or PTO do to help with that? So we're wanting to introduce the idea that it's not just school counselors that can teach kids what they need to know in order to make good choices. It's lots of different folks. Okay, and then we're thanking people for coming. Okay, very quickly then, let's wrap up a little bit. I'm going to go back to in the handouts, here's the root cause analysis poster, the activity parking lot, and the Instagraph poster. And of course the facilitator notes, which we always suggest that you read, and then the tasks following meeting 4. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to the process page, and entering the root causes is pretty simple. I'm going to scroll down to November. So entering the root causes, I'm going to click on enter, and I've already entered a couple of root causes. So, okay, so I've already added a couple of root causes for the AP example that we've been giving, but I'll just show you here. If I wanted to add another one, I could just add a root cause for this priority goal, and maybe a fee, let's say students must pay a fee to take the AP test. Okay, and is that a knowledge issue? No. Is it a personal social issue? No. Is it an opportunity issue? Yes, because kids with lower incomes, may have difficulty coming up with that fee. If it's a very low income, College Board helps with that, but if it's not a really low income, the students still may have trouble finding funding for that, even though they don't qualify for the assistance from College Board. So, okay, and then we would just save that, and then that puts it into the list. Now, keep in mind, I would word these very carefully and make sure that they're very clear, because later when we're developing activities, we're going to say, here's one of the root causes. Students don't know the school offers AP. What activities are we going to do to fix that? So every time you put in a root cause, we want to make sure it's worded very clearly, and also be thinking ahead that you're going to, later in the next step, you're going to be asked, what activities can you do to, I guess I have that pay for the test one in there twice, but actually, so I'll show you what we can do. I just noticed that I've got that in there twice, and I'm just going to take out the one I just put in, so we'll delete that, and it's gone. Okay, so word these very carefully, and also just keep in mind that we're going to be doing activities for those. So you can see so far for this school there are 3 priority goals for up-to-date written for your course plan, the AP course, and then submitting the FAFSA. So I'd want to go and write, put things in each one of these. Okay. Okay, that's it on entering. If you decide that when these pop up, you may decide, this is not worded exactly right. You can always click here to go directly back to the priority goal selection and edit them. So if you're not happy with how these pop out because of the way you worded them earlier, you can always go back and edit them. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the process page and, oops, let me go back one more time. There we go. So this is where you enter your minutes and the rubric items. Well, I'm going to open that up. So the rubric items for root causes is just we want to make sure that each of your priority goals now has root causes associated with it, and that you've indicated the type of root cause for each of the priority goals. So pretty simple. I think we'll also check to make sure that they're clearly written. If there's something that we can't understand, we're going to assume that your counsel can't understand that either. So we'll be giving you some advice on that. And then finally, when you're all ready and you're happy with your work, just send the submission to Debbie. The submission email to Debbie, and of course this is instructions for how to do that. You've been doing that up to this point, so nothing new there. And then Debbie will go in and review your minutes and also your root causes and just make sure that everything's up to snuff there, and then she'll give you feedback. And again, that feedback, if we don't feel like you're up to standards for a gold star or ask a ramp, or for our standards, we may ask you to rewrite some of those if we don't think they're clear or whatever. So again, we're looking for things that might get you in trouble down the road. So so please be patient with Debbie if she's asking you to rewrite. It's so that you end up with a really well-written sound program. So okay, I think that's it. Let me just go through. I think I jumped ahead. Oops. Let's go. I think I've done everything I wanted to do here. We did that. Oh yeah, one kind of final thought is remember that you will be implementing significant activities to impact each of your root causes. So we want to make sure that you're not overextending yourself. If you have 20 root causes in there, the system next month is going to ask you to implement activities to significantly impact the 20 root causes. So I would really limit your root causes to the ones that you think are really having an impact. Look for, the biggest bang for the buck root causes. So maybe 2 or 3 root causes for each of your priority goals. And really looking for the ones that have the most impact. And then if you don't feel you can tackle enough root causes to impact the priority goal, then I would consider omitting that goal. And I think it's perfectly okay with your counsel to say, now that we look at this, we had planned to have 10 priority goals, but look at all the work we're going to have to do to impact all of the root causes that are resulting in those problem areas. In reality, let's narrow this down. Instead of having 10 priority goals, maybe we really need to have 3. Because once we start looking at these root causes, is just obvious how much work this is going to take to impact these priority goals. I would suggest you just be really open and honest with your advisory council about your capacity for handling all these priority goals. So you want to do that now up front than to fail at implementing the 10 priority goals and then having to come back with bad data a year from now that you didn't impact them. So or actually not bad data, good data, but data showing that they didn't have an impact. So at any rate, so really think about that prior to ending your meeting. So that's it. So thank you once again for participating in this webinar, and don't forget to call Debbie if you have questions. And again, her email was on the front slide, Howell, Howell, at asainstitute.org. And again, her phone is 812-349-4142. So also, I always like to close with this, as school counselors, please remember that you really make a difference in the lives of young people, and all of the energy and work that you're putting into redesigning your school counseling program is going to make a difference in kids' lives. It's good work. I know it's hours and minutes that you're putting into this, but it will make a difference for kids, and that's what we're all about. So, okay, thanks so much, everyone, and we will talk with you next month. Call Debbie if you get stuck.